Steelers safety Deshaun Elliott hyperextended his knee against the Packers and has already been ruled out for Sunday's game against the Colts at Acrisure Stadium, but Mike Tomlin said the pectoral injury to offensive lineman Isaac Seumalo is not serious. Tomlin said Elliott can be characterized as week-to-week. He said the team has not yet discussed whether injured reserve is a possibility for Elliott. The Steelers have several options to replace Elliott at strong safety. Chuck Clark, Juan Thornhill, and Jabril Peppers are candidates to step in, but Tomlin also said the Steelers are working out veteran safeties Von Bell and Eddie Jackson on Tuesday afternoon. He's a significant component to what we do, Tomlin said of Elliott. He is a central figure in our secondary in terms of run defense. He covers tight ends in pass defense. It's a multi-person job. Several people will be given an opportunity to meet the demands of what he does for us. The news was better for Seumalo, who could potentially play against the Colts after he left the Packers game in the second half. Tomlin also said receiver Scotty Miller could return after surgery last week to repair a fractured finger. The Steelers did not receive good news on veteran defensive tackle Daniel Ekuele, who suffered an ACL injury and is out. One other roster note: don't look for former Packers receiver Marquez Valdes-Scantling to sign with the Steelers' practice squad this week despite some reports he was expected to join the team. What he said, Tomlin on defensive coordinator Teryl Austin. I've known Teryl a long time. He's very capable. I largely have been pleased with his work. But certainly, he and I are not pleased with where we are as a defensive unit. Our take. That quote won't go over well among the fan base after the Steelers gave up 28 second-half points in the loss to the Packers. The Steelers enter Sunday's game with the NFL's 30th ranked defense. They are giving up 386 yards per game. Those aren't comforting numbers with the Colts and their top-ranked offense coming to town. They are averaging 33.8 points per game. That's a full 3 points more than any other team in the league. They have scored 30 points or more in their past 4 games, and in 6 of 8 this season. Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Ben Skowronek was limited at practice on Wednesday with a neck injury. The injury seemingly occurred during the team's game against the Green Bay Packers. Skowronek was one of 2 wide receivers to be limited at practice on Wednesday, as Scotty Miller, who is battling a broken finger, also did not practice. Miller suffered the injury last week at practice. A hard-nosed wide receiver, Skowronek is a key piece of the Steelers' big package, and they bring him in as a contributor to run block. He has even been able to maximize his role in the offense by catching a few passes. Other than that, Skowronek is a key component of their special teams, and is one of their 2 gunners along with James Pierre this season. Skowronek's role on special teams has only grown over the season and a half he has been within the organization. That being said, given the limited designation, it should signal good news for Skowronek, who is likely to play against the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday despite the injury that he is now battling through. Miller, on the other hand, could miss time with that broken finger, and head coach Mike Tomlin said he would have to prove to them he could go out there and play first. If there is anything to be taken away from Sunday's game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's that Tucker Kraft is now firmly in the conversation for the best tight end in all of football. A case can be made for others, such as Trey McBride, George Kittle, and Sam Laporta. Still, if Kraft wasn't in that conversation before Sunday, he certainly is now. After years of getting virtually nothing out of their third-round draft picks, the Green Bay Packers have finally found a game-changing player with the tight end out of South Dakota. Another development from Sunday's action, also at the tight end position, is the apparent fall of fellow 2023 draft pick Luke Musgrave. The former Oregon State Beaver played his lowest snap count in a game he was healthy since joining Green Bay. Was it a one-game thing, or is he now permanently tight end number 3? It's hard to believe that, at one point, people viewed Musgrave as the future of the tight end position in Green Bay. He was drafted a round before Kraft in 2023 and was seen as the more NFL-ready prospect. The Packers envisioned him stepping in on day 1 and helping elevate the offense to a level not seen since the Jermichael Finley days. He was considered too tall and fast for linebackers and defensive backs alike to cover. But not only has Musgrave failed to meet those expectations, he's now losing snaps to John Fitzpatrick, whom Green Bay picked up on waivers midseason a year ago. For most of the season, Musgrave has played the T2 role. Thanks to his immense natural talent and the hope of what he could become, he hasn't been demoted even further. Yet. However, over the last few weeks, the Packers have started to phase him out in favor of Fitzpatrick. When camp broke, the Packers penciled in Musgrave as the clear number 2 tight end. There were even questions about whether Fitzpatrick would make the final roster over Ben Sims. He ultimately did, and Musgrave outsnapped Fitzpatrick by 21 total snaps in Week 1, 83-62. Since then, Musgrave hasn't outsnapped Fitzpatrick by more than 13 snaps and has played fewer snaps in 2 games. Sunday against the Steelers, Fitzpatrick had his biggest offensive role of the season, outsnapping Musgrave by double digits, 22-12. Even when Musgrave has played, he's essentially been a non-factor on the offense. He has 6 receptions on 7 targets for 54 total yards this year. Week 2 was his biggest impact, hauling in 2 catches on 2 targets for 32 yards. However, he's had only 3 catches since then. The Packers could likely live with the lack of production if he were even a decent blocker. They have a blossoming superstar at the position they don't want to take off the field. The problem is that Musgrave is a poor blocker for a tight end. He's earned a 47.8 run blocking grade this season, and he was the team's lowest graded run blocker on Sunday against the Steelers. Blocking is a big part of a tight end's job description, and when you're as bad at it as Musgrave is, it's hard to justify more snaps. While Fitzpatrick isn't the receiving threat Musgrave has the potential to be, his stats aren't much worse, and he's a far better blocker. He has 5 receptions on 5 targets for 24 yards and a touchdown. Oddly enough, considering how much better a receiver Musgrave is supposed to be, he and Fitzpatrick have the same number of career touchdowns. 1. Fitzpatrick's came this season in the Dallas Cowboys game, while Musgrave's came back in his rookie season in 2023. Add in the versatility Fitzpatrick brings by lining up in the backfield as a fullback, giving Matt LaFleur a different wrinkle in his offense, and it's clear why the coaching staff is leaning his way. While Musgrave's run-blocking grade has declined as the season has gone on, Fitzpatrick's has improved. In weeks 3 and 4, he recorded grades of 49 and 49.4, but he's posted 57.4 and 59.9 since then. That level of play aligns more with what teams expect from a T2 than what Musgrave is currently producing. The Packers love their 2 tight end sets, but if the tight end that's absorbing those snaps is a lousy blocker, then it breaks the illusion of complexity. Before the Packers lost tight end Ben Sims off waivers to the division rival Minnesota Vikings, it was looking like Musgrave might be a prime trade candidate at the November 4th deadline. If there were ever a player who could benefit from a change of scenery, it's Luke Musgrave. However, it doesn't make much sense now that the Packers don't have a clear replacement on the roster. I still wouldn't rule it out completely. Perhaps there's a team out there willing to swap a cornerback, which the Packers badly need, whose career is in a similar place as Musgrave's. Still, keeping him until the offseason and then parting ways seems more likely. Unless we see a major breakthrough, Musgrave will go down as a big what-if in Packers lore. The last time Green Bay played in Pittsburgh, Week 10 of 2023, almost 2 years to the day, Musgrave started that game and played over 50 snaps, catching passes of 36 and 28 yards. Those were his longest plays of the season up to that point, and it was viewed as a potential coming-out party for the rookie. On the other hand, Kraft caught only 1 pass for 6 yards in that game. The Steelers and Omar Khan have already been busy ahead of the trade deadline. In desperate need of help in the secondary, they made a deal yesterday to acquire Kyle Duggar from the New England Patriots for a 6th and 7th round pick swap. Just a few weeks ago, the Steelers were sitting at 4-1, but after losing 2 straight games, they'll need more help to maintain their lead in the AFC North. Today, ESPN insiders Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano shared the latest buzz surrounding the trade deadline. Raiders WR Jakobi Meyers is a name that's been circulated frequently, and Fowler had this to say regarding his current market. Several teams are believed to be in the receiver market, most notably the Steelers and possibly the Broncos and Bills. Meyers clearly wants out, and the Raiders are in a transitional phase. They just signed veteran Tyler Lockett, which could ease the loss of dealing Meyers. Pittsburgh is keeping tabs on this one, but is prepared to be patient, too. If I had to predict a destination right now, I'd say the Steelers. Meyers is more of a possession wideout than a vertical threat, but has been extremely reliable throughout his career. So far this season, he has 29 catches for 329 yards. If Meyers doesn't work out, there's a vertical threat in New Orleans who could be a perfect fit. Fowler pegged the Steelers as one of the most interesting teams at the deadline and mentioned deep threat Rashid Shaheed as a potential option. Will they settle for a moderate move such as last year's acquisition of Mike Williams? Or will they locate more of a difference maker and pay the necessary draft capital to secure the talent? If a deal for Meyers falls through, perhaps the Steelers lean on the Saints for, say, Rashid Shaheed, a speed option who would be costly, but not outrageously so. Graziano questioned their speculative preference to add another playmaker. I am hearing a lot of the same chatter about the Steelers and wide receivers, but I'm not sure I get it. Is the offense the Steelers' problem? They should be looking for help on defense beyond Duggar, because that's the side of the ball that looks old, slow, and threatens to doom their season. I agree with Graziano here. In an ideal world, the Steelers would acquire both a wideout and another defensive back, but I'm not sure Duggar is enough of a needle mover to improve their putrid defense down the stretch. Once touted as the best in the league, the defense hasn't come close to living up to expectations. They've allowed 68 points in back-to-back losses to the Bengals and Packers, and their pass defense ranks dead last in the NFL, behind the much-maligned Bengals and Cowboys. This Sunday, they'll welcome the Indianapolis Colts to Acrisure Stadium, a team with a historically good offense through the first 8 weeks.